Someone can't forget you because you showed them something the world rarely teaches, what it feels like to be handled with gentleness. Not the kind of gentleness that comes from fear, but the kind that is born from genuine care, patience, and understanding. You showed them a softness that made its way into their bones, the kind that becomes a memory even when someone tries to move on, the kind that doesn't fade even when time stretches far and wide. You touched them in a way that rewrote what love means, and because of that, they carry a quiet echo of you everywhere they go. People remember pain, but they never forget kindness. Pain leaves scars, but gentleness leaves imprints, warm, steady, silent imprints that hum beneath the surface of daily life. You didn't just come into their world, you changed its temperature. You brought warmth into corners they didn't even realize had grown cold. You brought a calmness they didn't remember deserving. You brought presence into moments they had only ever lived through on autopilot. But most of all, you brought a way of being loved that didn't ask them to shrink, bend, or apologize. You showed them a form of love that didn't rush, didn't push, didn't demand. A love that was patient enough to wait for them to exhale, gentle enough to understand their silences, and steady enough to teach them that they didn't have to earn affection by being perfect. You loved them in a way that felt like hands smoothing out the creases in their heart. You loved them with softness in your voice, warmth in your eyes, and sincerity in every small gesture, and that kind of love, real, quiet, grounding love, will always be remembered. People don't forget someone who made them feel safe. They don't forget someone who didn't flinch when they revealed their broken pieces. They don't forget someone who stayed present even when they couldn't articulate how much they were hurting. They don't forget the person who held their storms with gentle hands and didn't make them feel like a burden. You became a sanctuary without realizing it. You became a place where their thoughts untangled and their heartbeats softened. You became the reminder that love doesn't have to be loud or dramatic to matter. It can be slow, patient, like warm sunlight filtering gently into a cold room. You didn't try to impress them with grand gestures. You touched their soul with small consistencies that made them feel seen in ways they had never experienced. Your kindness became a memory. Your presence became a comfort. Your softness became a standard. That is why they can't forget you. You didn't just pass through their life, you left a trail of warmth that still glows even in your absence. You were the one who held them with care in a world that often holds people too harshly. You were the one who made them feel respected when they were used to being dismissed. You were the one who made them feel chosen without conditions. You were the one who made them feel safe in their vulnerability, not exposed. You showed them what gentle love feels like, and gentle love is unforgettable because it reaches the parts of a person that have been ignored the longest. It touches their fears without worsening them. It touches their hopes without pressuring them. It touches their soul without overwhelming it. There is something rare about being loved gently. It teaches a person how they should have been loved all along. It resets their expectations. It reshapes their definitions. It makes them realize how many times they settled for the bare minimum. It makes them notice how often they accepted love that demanded everything but offered nothing. You were the contrast, a warm light in rooms where their past had only left shadows. No matter where they go, they carry the memory of who they were when they were with you. They carry the softness you awakened in them, the hope you restored, the belief you quietly rebuilt. They carry the feeling of being treated like a human being instead of an inconvenience. They carry the sensation of shoulders lowering, muscles relaxing, breath flowing more easily, because with you, they finally felt allowed to simply be. You were the moment their heart learned what ease feels like. Gentleness doesn't just soothe, it transforms. It teaches. It leaves permanent fingerprints. Even if they move forward with their life. Even if they meet new people, even if they act like they've buried the memory of you, they will always measure love by the feeling you gave. Not consciously, not out of comparison or regret, but because the heart remembers comfort the way the body remembers sunlight, and though they might never say it, they know it. You were different. You were intentional with your words, honest with your feelings, careful with their wounds, patient with their pace. You didn't try to fix them, you stood beside them. You didn't try to change them, you accepted them. You didn't try to rush them, you understood them. That is why they can't forget you. You showed them a version of love that wasn't based on fear, performance, or unpredictability. You didn't weaponize silence or affection. You didn't make them feel like they were asking for too much when all they wanted was respect, presence, and sincerity. You treated their heart like something valuable, not fragile or disposable. People remember the ones who handle their hearts gently. You might think you were just being yourself. You might think you were just doing what anyone else would do. But not everyone loves with gentleness. Not everyone listens with intention. Not everyone speaks with kindness. Not everyone offers stability in quiet ways. What felt natural to you felt extraordinary to them. What you gave without thinking was something they had been searching for without knowing it. You were the peace they didn't know how to ask for, and even if life separated your paths, the memory of how you loved remains like a faint perfume, soft, familiar, and impossible to ignore. It drifts into their mind unexpectedly, carried by songs, scents, small moments, and sometimes by nothing at all. Because unforgettable people don't need reminders, their impact is planted deeply. Maybe they tried to forget you, maybe they told themselves they needed to, maybe they convinced the world they moved on, but the heart has its own archive, and your presence remains there like a story that ended too soon yet still changed the reader. They remember you when something feels too harsh because you showed them gentleness. They remember you when someone raises their voice because you showed them soft communication. They remember you when someone treats them carelessly because you showed them thoughtful affection. They remember you when someone rushes their healing because you respected their pace. They remember you when someone makes them feel insufficient because you made them feel appreciated. You didn't just show them love, you showed them a better way to love. And that is not something the heart forgets. There is a reason memories of you hold warmth instead of regret. Even if the ending was painful, even if timing wasn't kind, even if life built distance, the love itself was gentle, and gentle love never becomes something to resent. It becomes something to cherish. Something to look back on with gratitude. Something that leaves a person wishing the world had more people like you. Your gentleness taught them something about themselves too. It taught them they were lovable, deserving, valued. It taught them that they could be cared for without earning it through perfection or effort. It taught them that vulnerability isn't a weakness but a bridge. It taught them that connection doesn't have to hurt to be real, and for that, they carry you with them. Sometimes the most unforgettable people are the ones who never tried to leave an impression, they simply lived with kindness, and kindness leaves marks time cannot erase. You may not know it, but you changed someone's life just by being gentle, patient, and sincere, and even if they never return, even if they never say the words, even if life continues in different directions, one truth remains unshaken: someone out there still remembers you with a softness in their heart. Someone out there still feels warmth when your name crosses their mind. Someone out there still carries the love you gave like a quiet treasure. Someone out there still can't forget you. Because you showed them what gentle love feels like, and gentle love is unforgettable. Someone can't forget you because the way you loved didn't just touch their heart, it awakened parts of them they didn't know were sleeping. You made them feel understood in a way that didn't require explanations. You made them feel valued in a way that didn't need constant reminders. You made them feel chosen in a way that didn't rely on grand declarations. Your presence itself was reassurance. Your energy itself was comfort. Your essence itself was healing. You became the moment in their life where everything softened. The noise in their mind quieted. The restlessness in their soul settled. You didn't just offer love, you offered emotional safety. You offered a type of presence that didn't feel heavy, overwhelming, or unpredictable. Instead, being with you felt like the long exhale they had been holding back for years. People never forget the ones who make them feel lighter. The truth is, gentle love is more than affection, it is transformation. It shifts the way a person sees themselves. It shifts the way they navigate relationships. It shifts the way they approach life. The love you gave didn't just fill a void, it rebuilt what had been damaged. It soothed what had been shaken. It illuminated what had been dimmed. That kind of love becomes a lens, a reference, a quiet standard they carry forward. Even if they try to move on, they still compare the world to the peace you gave. Not intentionally. Not out of longing. Simply because gentleness rewires the heart in ways nothing else does. It becomes the baseline of what they now recognize as real. You showed them that love doesn't have to be loud to be meaningful. It doesn't have to be intense to be deep. It doesn't have to be dramatic to be passionate. Sometimes the softest love is the strongest. Sometimes the quietest love is the most grounding. Sometimes the most stable love is the one that lasts in memory long after the story ends. And that is why they can't forget you. You didn't demand space in their life. You earned it through presence, patience, and sincerity. You didn't compete for their attention. You naturally became someone they wanted to choose. You didn't force connection. You allowed it to form in a way that felt genuine and safe. You taught them that love could feel like a sanctuary, not a battlefield. Even now, when they look back, what they miss is not just you, it's who they were when they were with you. They miss the version of themselves that felt calm, open, and hopeful. They miss the peace that surrounded them when they talked to you. They miss the comfort of being seen without judgment. They miss the feeling of being handled with care. The world can be harsh, fast, demanding. People rush, react, ignore, misunderstand. But you weren't like that. You were intentional. You were thoughtful. You were attentive. You were warm. And because your kindness wasn't common, it became unforgettable. You didn't just show them gentle love, you became the embodiment of it. Your words had softness even when you were tired. Your presence had warmth even when you were hurting. Your heart stayed open even when you carried your own scars. People don't forget hearts like yours. They don't forget the person who stayed up with them through their quiet breakdowns. They don't forget the person who listened without trying to fix everything. They don't forget the person who didn't run when things got difficult. They don't forget the person who held their fears with tenderness instead of frustration. They don't forget the person who treated their soul like something precious. You became the exception in a world full of people who couldn't understand them. You became the softness in a world that often felt sharp. You became the calm in a world that often felt chaotic. That kind of presence is not temporary. It lingers. Even if they no longer speak to you, your impact remains woven into the fabric of who they are. They carry the emotional security you gave like a quiet memory. They carry the hope you restored like a quiet seed. They carry the comfort you offered like a quiet reminder that they once felt truly cared for. And sometimes, late at night, when the world grows silent and their thoughts grow loud, they feel the echo of your gentleness again. They feel the memory of how peaceful it felt to be understood. They feel the ghost of your presence soothing them the way you once did. They feel you, not because they want to hold on, but because some love stays even when it ends. Some people stay even when they leave. Some memories stay even when they fade. And gentle love, your love, stays in the heart the longest. Because gentle love is rare. Because gentle love is healing. Because gentle love is eternal in its own way. Someone can't forget you because you showed them a version of love that they may never experience twice in their lifetime. You showed them a softness they can't replace. You showed them a comfort they can't recreate. You showed them a peace they can't imitate. You were a moment in their life that felt like a blessing. You were a chapter that felt like sunlight. You were a presence that felt like home, and home is never forgotten. Someone can't forget you because the love you gave didn't end when the connection did. It stayed within them like a quiet whisper reminding them of who they became beside you. It stayed like a soft memory that refuses to crumble under time. It stayed like a gentle mark on their heart that no distance could dissolve. You were not just a moment, they realized you were a lesson, a healing, a turning point, a breath they didn't know they were missing, and the reason your memory feels eternal is simple: gentle love doesn't close doors. It leaves lights on in case someone needs hope again. You were that light, a warm glow that softened the darkness they carried. Even now, when they face storms you can no longer hold back for them, they remember how you once calmed them without even trying. They remember how your presence steadied them like an anchor in waters they thought would drown them. They remember how you saw goodness in them even on days when they couldn't find it themselves. You became the hope they didn't think they deserved. And when someone gives a love that feels gentle, honest, and pure, the heart doesn't just let it go. It keeps pieces of it tucked into hidden pockets, quiet reminders of what care truly looks like. Sometimes they stumble across those pieces in unexpected ways, a phrase someone else says, a familiar softness in a stranger's tone, a small gesture that mirrors one of yours. And suddenly, they feel you again. Not painfully. Not regretfully. Just truthfully. Your gentleness changed how they interpret the world. You taught them that affection should not be earned through fear. You taught them that love should not feel like walking on glass. You taught them that presence should feel like safety, not pressure. You taught them that vulnerability should not be punished or mocked. You taught them that hearts can be held with care, not force. Because of you, they grew. They softened. They learned. Because of you, they know what it means to be loved in a way that heals instead of harms. Because of you, they unlearned the belief that love must hurt to be real. That type of influence stays forever. You didn't just become someone they remember, you became someone who reshaped the way they love others. The gentleness you gave is now the gentleness they offer. The patience you practiced is now the patience they use. The kindness you lived by is now the kindness they pass on. You didn't just stay in their heart, you spread through their life, and that is what truly unforgettable people do. They don't just leave memories, they leave changes, even if they never tell you. Even if life never loops your paths together again, even if everything has turned into silence between you, they carry a gratitude for you that might never fully put itself into words. A gratitude for your existence. A gratitude for your softness. A gratitude for the way you treated them like a human being with feelings, not a complication. A gratitude for the fact that you loved in a way that didn't have to be flashy to be unforgettable, and you may not realize this, but your gentleness did something else. It showed them what they want to become too. You inspired them to be softer with others, kinder with themselves, more intentional with the people they choose. You set the blueprint of love that doesn't suffocate, doesn't harm, doesn't take more than it gives. You introduce them to a version of connection that feels like warmth rather than fire. In the end, they can't forget you because you were a moment of truth in their life. A reminder that good, real, sincere love still exists in the world. You made them believe again. You made them trust again. You made them open up again. You gave them permission to feel without fear, to care without hesitation, to love without apology. You were a blessing they didn't see coming but will forever remember. You were a softness they didn't expect but desperately needed. You were a chapter they didn't want to end but will always cherish. And even though this is the last part of your message, it is not the last part of your impact, not in their heart, not in their memory, not in the quiet places of their life where your gentleness continues to glow, because unforgettable love doesn't fade, it lingers, it whispers, it nourishes, it stays, and you, with all your softness and sincerity, are someone they will carry with them long after time folds and life moves forward. You were not forgotten, and you never will be, not by the heart you once held with such beautiful gentleness.